Back when I was telling the Transformers tale of the return of Optimus Prime, I already had these Robotech videos on my brain. So, if you ever go back and really pay attention, you'll see a few nods and references. As Rodimus Prime was dealing with the hate plague, I knew I wanted to use that shot of Kyle from the previous episode, riling up the people of New Detroit against Rick Hunter and his squad, as an example of how infectious hate naturally is, and how dangerous it can be. And you know what? It was really hard to find that episode on YouTube. It's missing from just about every Robotech playlist on here. Although, curiously, the Macross episode it's made from isn't hard to come by. At the time, I didn't think much of it, and I dug out my super old low-res version off an old hard drive to get the shot I wanted, and I moved on with the work. Cut to a couple weeks back, when I'm working on the video for episode 31, extremely excited to show it off, since it's up there on my favorites list of Robotech episodes. And wouldn't you know it, after pouring my heart and soul into hours of work, I found out the hard way why the revenge of our favorite villainous ZENTRAEDI was so hard to come by on this platform. It's weird how claims and stuff work, and you never know until you upload what's going to be flagged, and you never really find out why. And I tried multiple ways to try and get around it, but for whatever reason, episode 31 of Robotech specifically is blocked in the USA at least, which just happens to be the majority of my audience. So, heartbreakingly, I had to make the somewhat abridged version just to at least kind of discuss with you all, here's why it's cool. But I'm happy to announce that my brother and I are working on a place we can link to where you can head over and see the original version of that video, as well as other original cuts of some other videos I made compromises on, and any future videos this claim problem may cause issues with again. So please stay tuned and we'll give you all the details when it's all sorted out. That said, I regret to announce that episode 32 of Robotech, Broken Heart, is also under the same copyright claims. And thanks to viewer Hungry for the Truth for bringing that to my attention sooner rather than later. But I'm afraid we'll have to do the quick and abridged version of this episode as well. However, the good news is I believe the final 4 episodes of the Macross Saga don't have the same issue. And we'll be able to get back to the usual here's why it's cool goodness you've grown accustomed to. And maybe it's for the best, as Broken Heart is the last episode with the rougher animation quality that we get sometimes, but it still has its moments. We open with the aftermath of KHYRON's vicious attack on New Detroit, with the Robotech Defense Force now hunting down the Backstabber with every resource they have. Lisa is in command of an entire wing of Veritech fighters, relaying orders from her advanced airborne command post. This armada of fighters close in to where KHYRON's secret base had been located, and counter the surface-to-air missiles launched at them as they approach. Finding the downed ZENTRAEDI craft KHYRON had been using, Rick and some of the other Battloids head inside to find it abandoned. There's a very brave moment of Lisa going in with the Battloids personally, and it's almost adorable to see her riding on the shoulder of Skull One as she and Rick determine what to do next. All they can gather from the mess left behind is that KHYRON's forces left in a hurry, and they need to find out which way he headed, and fast. We find KHYRON and his troops on the move, and see just how invigorated he seems to be with all of this excitement of late, stirring up his ZENTRAEDI blood, as he, Rel, and Azonia move forth with the next stage of KHYRON's plan, to defeat the Micronians once and for all. But it required the assistance of one Micronian in particular, the most renowned of all of these insignificant insects, the female songstress, MINMEI. MINMEI just happened to be in the middle of a concert in a town not far away, entertaining many ZENTRAEDI fans along with hundreds of human-sized folks as well. She sings right through the sound of rumbling, growing louder and louder, until suddenly dozens of battle pods drop through the walls and ceilings, sending even the friendly giant ZENTRAEDI running, not to mention the rest of the audience. MINMEI can only stare in horror watching the carnage, and Kyle, rather valiantly, tries to get her off stage and save her. But before they can get very far, KHYRON himself delightfully stops them, picking the two of them up in one hand, which elicits a giant from the audience to cry out in protest that KHYRON must not harm MINMEI. A simple glance from KHYRON to one of his battle pods results in that loudmouth ZENTRAEDI getting a severe robotic kick to the ribs. This shuts down anyone else thinking of standing against this occupation, as KHYRON and his troops set up shop to ready themselves for the rest of KHYRON's clever strategy. The following morning, back at the command module in New Macross City, Claudia announces to Admiral Global an incoming transmission from KHYRON, sparking a certain revulsion in Global as he pulls out his pipe and lights it before accepting the call.
It is a great pleasure to interrupt you, Admiral Global.
On the contrary, the disgust is all mine, I assure you.
That makes me very happy.
KHYRON gets right to the point, revealing the captured MINMEI and Kyle in the grip of himself and Azonia. The entire command center is alarmed and disturbed to see this for many reasons, not the least of which is concern for these two civilians, but also the idea that the ZENTRAEDI, that KHYRON, have learned to take hostages, stooping to such a new low level of deviousness. The implications of this were more than a little concerning. KHYRON threatens the lives of the little Micronian songbird and her annoying companion, unless the Micronians deliver to him the SDF-1 within the next 24 hours. This demand did reveal a certain ignorance by KHYRON of just how damaged and virtually immobile the SDF-1 was following the battle against Dolza's fleet, this fact automatically complicating the situation. Kyle, to his credit, calls out to Admiral Global telling him to not give in to KHYRON's demands, ready to be sacrificed for the greater good of mankind. But the Defense Force certainly couldn't sit idly by and allow this to happen, and KHYRON was sure of that. He ends the transmission, his demands now known, and then sits in wait with his men, becoming bored until he and Azonia begin toying with their tiny Micronian meal tickets. KHYRON jokes that MINMEI should sing for them all, and she takes him up on the offer.
No? Why doesn't MINMEI perform?
To be in love.
It seems to have the effect she'd hoped for, as they all seem captivated by her voice.
To be in love. To live a dream with somebody you care about like no one
But, at least in KHYRON's case, he was simply acting the part, showing her proof that her special Micronian powers had no effect on him.
Well, it was a brave attempt, MINMEI, but unfortunately for you, as you can see, I am immune to your magical witchcraft.
As he tries to drive home that point, he shows his long-harbored frustration that this doll and her culture had caused so much destruction among his people, had defeated the mighty ZENTRAEDI. In his rage, he squeezes her hard enough to make her faint. but is relieved when she rouses herself back to consciousness.
She's all right. They're well-built little things.
And have you noticed how flexible they are? Be careful now, little Micronian. Surely this is as much fun for you as it is for me.
I could actually watch Azonia toy with Kyle like this all day. Back at RDF Command, a meeting is held to determine how to handle KHYRON, considering how unpredictable he's proven to be in his behavior and tactics. It is quickly decided that an attempt must be made at a rescue mission, and GLOVAL calls in his best people in Captain Hayes and Captain Hunter to head the operation. Lisa receives the news of the capture and the orders of the operation from Claudia, but is extremely worried how Rick will not only react to the news, but proceed with the operation. She hated putting him in such a delicate and dangerous situation as it is, but she was well aware how LYNN MINMEI affected Rick in his mood and ability to think straight. She really hated how much that girl still had a hold on him. Lisa radios Rick with their new set of orders and has to break it to him about the current status of his little friend MINMEI. Of course, he's upset over it, but he does have a silly moment while he takes in the situation.
Scattered the audience and kidnapped her right in the middle of a performance.
I'm always coming to your rescue.
Do you mind?
As the fighters rendezvous with Lisa's AACP to begin the operation, Lisa challenges Rick on his ability to perform this mission with a clear head. I'm sure this comes from her genuine concern for him and his safety, but he challenges her that it's out of jealousy as much as her own sense of duty. It was always duty first with Lisa, wasn't it? At least in Rick's mind. He does seem to suddenly realize he was proving Lisa right with this attitude, though, making her argument warranted. He calms down, refocusing and realizing where she's really coming from, and reassures her he'll keep his objectivity and return safely as well as successfully. She seems to greatly appreciate that final sentiment and watches as he once again flies towards the danger she sent him into. KHYRON, meanwhile, is already celebrating his imminent victory, with ZENTRAEDI-sized bits of meat and bottles of wine, as Azonia seems poised and perfectly capable of drinking the lot of them under the table as they revel all together. Kyle and MINMEI are trapped in a clever little cage made of giant forks and plates as they try unsuccessfully to move them and escape, but despair truly begins to set in. Kyle decides to try and appeal to their captors, and again, credit where credit is due for this brave attempt on his part. But it is interesting how different the moment is in Macross, where he makes a genuine appeal of reason and logic with KHYRON and his men, whereas in Robotech, he just seems kind of whiny about it and as entitled as ever, even going as far as to call KHYRON a coward. Either way, the results are the same, as KHYRON becomes enraged at the words of this pathetic Micronian male.
Careful, KHYRON. Remember the space fortress.
Why, you puny little things. If it weren't for the fact that I need you, I'd crush you, just for pleasure.
Be careful, Kyle. He's had a lot to drink.
KHYRON decides to show the Micronians just how much he's learned of their culture and pleasure, and calls over Azonia to help him demonstrate.
You see, I too have learned something about pleasure.
It's an uncomfortable moment for everyone, except Azonia, who definitely seems into the display and demonstration. But once again, it falls on Grell to interrupt KHYRON's good mood with bad news.
Oh, excuse me, Lord KHYRON. I'm sorry to have to interrupt your demonstration. I thought you might want to know that we seem to be under attack.
Under attack?
Yes, sir.
Enough, Azonia!
I was just beginning to enjoy your demonstration.
There's no time for that now!
KHYRON takes the transmission of these fellows Zentradi radioing for assistance as the Micronians attack them. Explosions everywhere in the background. The transmission ceases abruptly, and KHYRON determines to help save his fellow warriors from this assault. All of which leads to one of the funnest reveals in the series.
Please, sir, you must send reinforcements.
It could be a diversion, sir.
Micronians aren't intelligent enough for that.
Excuse me, can you give me some fire?
Yeah, sure. No problem. Here you are.
Thanks. Careful now. You Micronians live well.
I love that moment, not only because of the humor, but man, talk about showing a real trust between these two, using a rifle as a lighter for his giant friend. As KHYRON falls for the diversion, Azonia hates to see him go, wishing to continue their demonstration. But KHYRON invites her along for the battle, almost making it like a Zentradi-style date. He even lets her use his personal battle pod as he mounts a captured destroid and rides it into battle like a stallion leading the charge. As his main forces head out, a recon team informs Lisa's command that the bait was taken, and she radios Rick to commence his part of the operation. Even as Rick heads into battle, eager to rescue MINMEI once more, it's the words of Lisa that run through his head, reminding him to keep his perspective and his cool and come back safe. KHYRON arrives to help his fellow Zentradi, but is surprised to see them run off with the very Battloids attacking them. Within moments, he finds himself surrounded by several Koenig monster-class destroids, who begin decimating KHYRON and his troops. KHYRON rallies his men, though, and an incredibly fierce battle commences. Only a few warriors were left behind to guard the hostages, and they're as shocked as MINMEI and Kyle when the wall explodes and a lone Veritech fighter comes zooming in. Rick maneuvers around their fire every bit the acrobat who won competitions at the old flying circus as he easily takes down the three Zentradi guards. He pulls apart the forks serving as their cage, and MINMEI is elated that it's Rick Hunter of all people who've come to their rescue. Once he'd gotten them to safety, Kyle begins chewing out Lisa for the rough treatment they received in their rescue and the danger it put them all in. Lisa stands her ground, wondering what she ever saw in this dingus, telling him off and to go file a complaint. MINMEI is pretty sick of Kyle's crap too, and jumps in to defend Lisa and all the armed forces, telling Kyle he should learn to be grateful for all they've done for the two of them.
Can't you see that all these people risked their lives for us, you ungrateful
I did it for
elf?
you,
Huh?
MINMEI. Huh? I sure didn't do it for Kyle. I'd expect that from you, Hunter.
Rick emerges out of the pre-dawn darkness to make quite an entrance, more than happy to show Kyle what a real hero, a real man, looks like. MINMEI definitely sees it all and runs towards her beloved Rick. And it's actually kind of sad in a way to see MINMEI tear up in the arms of Rick as he holds her, as she probably feels truly safe and comforted for the first time in who knows how long. The battle against KHYRON is still on, and he's put up a heck of a fight in what should have been an easy victory for the defense forces. After seeing Azonia in danger, he makes the tough decision to retreat, regrouping his forces before they fight their way out, escaping the justice that was due them. Word of this comes to Lisa, who is happy for the excuse to interrupt Rick and MINMEI as they continue their embrace. Not even kissing each other by the looks of it, just holding each other. Rick certainly bristles at Lisa, ordering him back into combat to chase down KHYRON, telling her to do it herself. Like she can't just give him this moment with MINMEI. Lisa nearly does take up Rick on his challenge to chase down KHYRON herself, but Rick cools off, knowing he does have a duty to perform, hating to admit Lisa is right and just doing her job. He promises MINMEI he'll see her again soon, and she's almost cute as she salutes her soldier boy, and he salutes back, even though Lisa takes it as a bit of mockery while she watches, having to put up with this girl's silliness. But as Rick goes to take off and perform his duty, MINMEI finally realizes in her heart that it's been Rick all along, that she truly does love him, that she wants to be with him more than anything. She chases after Skull One as it takes off into the sunrise, overwhelmed with this swelling in her heart, as she watches Rick head off to be a hero once more. Lisa couldn't help but be proud of Rick as he headed out again, so pleased to see him keep his perspective, choose his duty over his boyhood crush, and remain objective in his mission to protect all the people of Earth, not just MINMEI. The fact that he could part with her at all, Lisa knew, was a good sign that Rick wasn't willing to throw away everything for MINMEI, and maybe that meant... Under the light of the rising sun, she felt its warmth wash over her, feeling there might just be hope for mankind and maybe even for her and Rick, after all.
あなたは何も言わず